Now, what dominates the conversation when it comes to watch collecting really revolves around what is new, what can I acquire, what can I buy? And I understand why that's the case. It's always exciting to be on the hunt for a new watch to add to your collection. But oftentimes we overlook the reality that is many of the watches we decide to buy, we might fall out of love with, and we have to move on from them at some point. Now in this video, what I wanna do is look at 7 points that I like to consider for myself, and I would recommend for other people that are looking at their collection, might be wanting to move on from something specifically, and just some maybe good bullets that you could maybe ask yourself and have an introspective process of going about selling your watch and what you should consider, whether it's the right move, and how you should have the right plan to go forward. Also, before jumping into this video, if you want a better overview of the luxury watch market, we put together a comprehensive article looking at 52 leading watch brands in the luxury segment, giving you pretty much everything you need to know and being a good breakdown and jumping off point for your research. We look at their ownership structure, when they were started, a list of their key models, which one you should be familiar with, and also interesting facts that you might not be aware of. Facts like the Vatican in Rome maintains the largest collection in the world of JLC's Atmos clocks. If you want more information, there's a great jumping off point, a lot of interesting things to learn. I'll have a link to that down in the description below. So for a few of these first points here, these are gonna be more geared to looking at things you can do before actually deciding to sell. And then once you decide to actually sell, you've done all these other points, you really wanna move forward, then we'll look at some additional points to consider so you have the right type of mindset when looking to sell. Now to begin here, things that you can do before maybe moving on from your watch, maybe you're a little bit fatigued with wearing that watch or getting a bit bored. One of the first things that I would recommend, try some different straps in the watch. I have done this many times. There's a watch that, hey, I've worn it. I am getting a little bit tired of just seeing it in the same form over and over again. Try a different strap on it. Also, maybe go against the conventional rules that some people would advise. When you have a dive watch, maybe throw a leather strap on it. Just really try to change up the feel of how you are positioning the watch. For a great example, one watch that I always love to just change the look of, my Maximo Chronoscope. That watch, and there's other watches out there like this, where it just breathes new life when you put a strap that maybe isn't typically considered for the watch, and then you just see how differently it can be experienced. Put a NATO strap on this watch, looks totally different than the conventional offering when you buy it new, but I just think it looks fantastic. Put on a different bracelet, try some different bracelets. Reptilian straps, calf skins, rubber straps. There's plenty of different things to try out when you are looking at your watch collection. Think about what could maybe complement it, have some fun with it, and just create a different look for that watch, because this is a great way of not spending all the money for a new watch, but getting that new watch feel. Point number 2, experience the watch and actually maybe use it for its intended purpose. This could be 2 different routes. Say you have a dive watch, maybe consider going diving or going scuba diving, something of that sort, snorkeling, anything that would allow you to get a feel for that type of world and use case, just actually experiencing the watch in that intended purpose. Maybe taking a pilot watch up in the air, maybe take some pilot lessons, go on a hike with an Seiko Alpinist for an example, or travel to a location, make some memories with the watch. I find that when you're going about consuming either watch content or you're looking to buy a watch, you get so excited about the process and the feeling of acquiring the watch that you forget what you should experience when you actually own it. The excitement is attached to the ability to buy it rather than actually experience it for its intended use case, building a connection to that. Being able to look down at your wrist during a vacation or an event where you're surrounded by people you enjoy or doing a fun activity, and you could just look at your watch, and just every single time that you look at your watch in maybe more of a mundane environment as the time goes on, you could be reminded of what you've experienced. And I think it allows you to have some joy in connecting that watch to things of your past. Next up here, we have put it out of sight. And my whole point here is out of sight, out of mind. Test that hypothesis, whether or not you are going to miss that watch if you don't actually see it. Are you going to miss it? Things that I have done in the past, just put the watch in a drawer or something in the closet, just store it away, don't touch it for, say, weeks at a time, and just see what happens. You want to pull it out here and there. Maybe put it in a safety deposit box. Of course, if it's a more expensive watch, this is a great way to do that. You get security, plus have the added benefit of getting it out of your view on a day-to-day, so you can think about, hey, do I want to go grab that? Do I have the inkling? Especially if you have to go drive somewhere to go grab it. If you add that barrier to go get it, that would also maybe be a test of your willpower and just seeing how much you actually miss the watch. And another thing that I have done in the past is just let someone that you trust wear it. Now, if you have a very expensive luxury watch, this might not be as easy to do, but if you have something that's you feel comfortable with and you trust that person very much, try giving it to them just to wear it for a little bit. Hey, like, you want to test drive this, especially if you have a cool watch and maybe there's somebody that like has started to get into watches. This is a fun way. Or maybe you have a significant other that would be interested in watches. You've never maybe let them wear something, but you just try to encourage them like, hey, try this on. What do you think of it? And then just see what goes from there. And when you see it on somebody else's wrist, you have a different perspective of the watch and how you experience it. It allows you to almost have a view of yourself when somebody else wears it. So now say you've tried all of these 3 different points, you're ready to move on from something. Before you perhaps move on to selling the watch, maybe consider gifting the watch to somebody that you know, or maybe somebody that you would know that would enjoy the piece. I have done this in the past, and I will say there's a certain point where the return for money does not bring me more joy than giving the watch away to somebody that I think could get a ton of enjoyment out of it. For myself, I always love being able to pass off something that I am interested in into somebody that does show interest in something I am interested in. Now, it does, given the nature of what I do, there are people that are more open about, hey, they know I'm into watches and they will show interest, and it's very easy for me to detect whether or not they have that type of enthusiasm. It's a little bit harder, I would say, for people that might just have a more passive interest in watches, and those around you that might not see that that is a front and center interest for you. But if you have anybody around you that you think that you could gift the watch to, I think it's a great thing to do. I especially think this is a cool thing if you have a family member. You could get into maybe passing it down to like a son or a daughter, another relative that might find enjoyment, and they can see maybe your experience of wear with the nicks and scratches, or if it's just something that you don't necessarily wear even that often. I do think it's still just such a nice gesture to give something to somebody, which at the end of the day is still an expensive good, even for a more affordable watch. Now let's say those 3 points are out of the question, you don't want to gift the watch away as well, you're ready to sell your watch. Now the first thing I would recommend is just to have a plan or strategy. Now cleaning up clutter is good, just getting rid of things, I find that freeing for myself. But when you're talking about the money that's typically invested in a watch, sometimes just gutting things and getting rid of the hoarding mentality isn't merely enough. I would think about everything. Where's the money for this watch, if you do sell it, going to go towards next? I always like to have a plan. Whenever I'm starting to depart with something that has any value attached to it, whether it's sentimental or actually monetary value, I want to know exactly what I'm going to do with that and how I'm going to feel about it. Also, how are you going to sell it? Where are you going to sell it? If I do sell it, what can I get next? Start to align the dots. I think a lack of intention can sometimes lead to regret, or you just feel shorted in the process. I always want to have a plan of how I'm going to execute and what am I going to do after I execute that's going to allow me to maybe see that next step. This next point here is very important, and I think this is where everybody needs to look and be honest with themselves, and just don't overestimate what you're actually going to get for your watch. What is it truly worth? Be real about it. Whether you're going to sell it independently or to a dealer, both of those are going to really drop down potentially what you're going to get. The best way to maximize what you're going to get, if you want to go through the process of doing it, is to sell it on either a forum or independent private sale. That does come with challenges though as well, because you're going to be dealing with people questioning, hey, is this an authentic watch? You have to answer all these additional questions. You're going to have to deal with selling fees. And usually it's a lot of manual work to get that thing sold, when sometimes maybe you just want to sell it to a dealer, just get it done, be done with it. But when you do that, you potentially lose a lot of the value in many instances, because they have to, of course, sell that for a return. Now, there are places to go to get an idea. Now, you can just look at listings on Chrono24 and eBay, but what I would do, and probably the best areas to see what has sold, is one, going to eBay recently ended auctions. You can go ahead and filter out what has sold. Sometimes though, those are just auctions that have concluded, and sometimes the actual winner of that auction is not going to actually pay for that. So just be careful of that and keep that in mind. One great place to utilize is Watch Recon. This is an aggregator of all these different watches for sale from different forums, and you can see based on the model what people are asking for that watch. I find this is probably the best way if you're going to go ahead and private sell your watch, to get an idea of where the market is at. It's a great tool and something that I would utilize if you are trying to go the private sale route. And then finally, once you are able to look at What are the true economics at play here? Once I sell this watch, what am I going to get in return? That's when you have to make the decision, is the juice going to be worth the squeeze? There have been many times where I looked at a watch and I'm like, okay, I don't wear it that often, but is it really worth going through the process of selling it? No, I don't think it would be. And I find this is, unless I have a really definitive goal in mind of something I want to buy, I find this is probably where I fall more often than not. It does feel good to get rid of things, but you should be honest. And when you have a plan with, once you sell something, what you're going to do with that money, then you can look at this more clearly. I mean, selling a watch can be kind of exhausting. You have to take pictures of it. You have to answer questions from people that are asking all the different questions of condition and what is the warranty and all of this. Can I see a closer pic of the dial, for example? This could be exhausting and it takes time. You're talking about seller fees. And when you factor all that in to the equation, is the juice going to be worth the squeeze? And what can you really meaningfully do with those extra dollars? I think when you're dealing with luxury watches, there's more money at hand there, so there is more involved. When you're dealing with affordable watches under say $1,000 or so, at times I find that just wearing it, enjoying it, having it is sometimes better than going through the process of answering questions and selling the watch. And then just as a final point, this isn't necessarily one for this video that I was thinking about, but just putting all this together, I would always look back at previous decisions that you made, especially when you decide to move on from a watch. Do you have any regrets? What did you learn from that experience so that you could be a more educated buyer and seller in the future and just being a better collector overall? If you can just connect the dots and see what you did right, maybe did wrong, and how you can use that to grow in the field of watch collecting. All right, guys, and that is my video, things to consider before you sell your watch. What have you found helpful in the past when you look to sell something? Are there any things that you find helpful when you're looking to move on from a watch or you're looking to maybe acquire something new? What are some of the practices that you will put forward for yourself when going about that process? Also, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Really would appreciate that as well. Definitely check out TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. But all right, guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I'll see you all very soon.